I must tell you, I'm a country girl, and I come from a very, very rural town. I mean, people from my town say we live in the city, but actually we don't. I mean, we do, but we don't. It's pretty, and we're like country people. And you know, I've heard a lot of stories, and over as a child, you know, you sit down, you listen to the stories that is being told, and you know, when they find out that you're listening, they send you outside. Until you go outside, you know, you're in grown folks' business and stuff like that. But many times I heard stories, and I always was baffled. I said, you know, wow, did this really happen? So I sort of incorporate those stories in there, and that's how I came up with this story. Well, you know, most books are written about the Harlem Renaissance, the 1920s, you know, after or post, you know, around the 20s or even after World War II. You know, nothing is written about World War I. No. And so I sort of said, well, that's a good period of time to do some investigation. And actually, we cut the book down a lot because we had so much detail about the World War II and how it was hard, the infantries in New York, and how the black soldiers wanted to join the military, and the only way they could get in was some of them was to travel to New York, because there were only several, 2 or 3 infantries that were taking people over in the whole country. And so, and how difficult it was, and how the president, you know, was such a racist, and yet he did allow the colors at that time, which is what we call, to go and serve into the military. So it was a way, and I sort of chose that period because I said, oh, you know, I know a little bit about the 20s, everybody know a little bit about the 30s, everybody know about the Depression, you know, coming up, but do anybody know, what do we know about from, you know, the Civil War age to World War I? So that's why I chose that period. Well, you know, I came here a couple of times. I came, you know, I really did. I looked for books. I went to the library. I looked for books because there's not that many books on World War I. I just wanted to find out, you know, what was going on. It was called the Great War. It was a war where people didn't know who they really were fighting. We were just in Europe fighting. See, it was a war of where you were in a country where you went to France, and the French sort of grabs hold to the African Americans at that time, the colors at that time, and made them feel like they belonged. So they loved France. I mean, most people didn't even want to come back to this country after serving in the war in France. So, and a lot of times we were more of the service type. We weren't in infantry. We had to beg to be in infantry, and you know, anybody have seen the Tuskegee War, you know, people begged to go into war because we were sort of in those care positions, like cleanup, maintenance, cooks, those type of positions. But there were some people who were on the front line who wanted to fight, and they were able to fight overseas. What happens is I had written a book, and I had several titles in mind. You know, you always, sometimes you come up with a title first, and I written a book, and I said, you know, the Blackberry Days of Summer were the good days for Carrie in this book, for those who read the book. It was a time when her mother and her were walking up, and they would do blackberries. And I love blackberries personally myself, so you know, it's perfect for me. It was like, I want a book with blackberries. And my agent and I sat down and we thought about, like, what would be a good book and what would be a good title. And I had Blackberry something and she had Blackberry something, and we just came up with this together. Blackberry Days of Summer. Oh boy, that's a good question anyway. Forever. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I completed the manuscript real quick. I wrote the manuscript. I said, okay, you know, like you said, Pearl plagues and mentors use sometimes. So I saw Pearl and I said, you know, can you just help a sister out? She said, well, Ruth, let me give you my agent, because you know, we see each other at the cleaners, the grocery store. Let me give you my agent, and you send your stuff in and see what happens. Pearl's agent came back, called me up on the phone. She said, "What kind of crap is this? Don't you ever send me no stuff like this before." You know, I was new to writing, so I was new to the whole process. So she gave me a good talking for about 30 minutes. And she's not Pearl's agent today because she started Worthy Press. But at the time, Denise Stinson called me and she said, "Oh no, don't do this no more. You have to get it edited. Don't send me anything with any errors in it. You know, don't do this." And it was a learning experience. So Wayne can tell you, my husband, I edit all the time. I mean, edit for years. I go back and I edit and I edit and I edit. I change things. I take things out. Actually, this manuscript, when it went to Simon & Schuster, was over 120,000 words, and they cut it down. So we had to cut it down to like 80,000 words. So it's been a lot of editing, a lot of practice, a lot of learning experiences. Well, actually, Aretta, they did contact me recently and told me I need to write a second book. And so I started writing 5 pages. I got 5 done, but I am going to write a second. That makes me feel really good because, what I found out about Zane is the kind of person that reads every line. And most people would think that she's too busy for that. She reads every line, she questions every line, she'll call you and say, what did this mean? What do you mean by this? So it meant a lot to me for her to say that. And although, most people think it's erotica because there's some spiciness in it, but it's not erotica. But Zane is just so detailed, and it meant a lot.